This is Mommying While Muslim, recorded live and unedited. Watch as Zeba and Uzma record their podcast, see their reactions, and find out for yourself what all the buzz is about.
This episode of Mommyingwhilemuslim is brought to you by Muslim Kids TV, where you can find over 15,000 resources, including Islamic videos, games, and ebooks for your children. Use code MKTV2021 to get a 25% discount off of your annual subscription.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mommyingwhilemuslim. This is Isma Jaffrey.
And this is Isra Hashmi. How are you doing? I feel like it's been a couple of weeks since I've actually chatted with you.
Yes, because now that we're doing like batch recordings, it's like we have weeks off. We have
weeks off, but then I miss you. I'm like, oh man, I have to wait and actually try to remember in my mommy brain things to like talk to you about. Like I have to write it down because I'm so used to talking to you every day.
I could take it back and just, not give you a
No. I like my Fridays off. Okay. I take that back. So how was your week?
My week was good. We had our tea time talks on Sunday for the American Muslim Women's Giving Circle, and it was a flop because technology can suck sometimes. People came. We appreciate everybody who came. People still signed up. We love everybody who signed up. So, it happens, but we'll just put together something else and keep talking about it until June 30th. So I did.
Until we're blue in the face.
Till I'm blue in the face, exactly. But on a positive note, I have bought my first pair of harem pants.
I mean, you didn't do this like back when we were kids, like the MC Hammer pants?
No, because they were too expensive. And, like my family wouldn't pay for $150 pants. Remember Z Cavaricci's were out? Is that what it was?
Well, I mean, we couldn't afford it. So we sewed it ourselves.
You know how to sew harem pants?
All you have to do is like cut the little, cut the triangle and you make shalvar kameez into harem pants. Like we were like ghetto that way, but we owned it. Like we wore our shalvar kameez in like harem pant style.
I love it, dude.
Rocked it. Like we didn't
wear
care.
A shalwar as your harem pants. That is actually
we did.
Yeah, I didn't.
Because we were poor, okay? Yeah. So we did what we had to do, and we felt good about it. We felt good about it.
That is amazing. Yeah, no, I got a smoking deal on mine. They were only $20 online from a Muslim vendor. So I'm really excited, and I feel like I should have more of these in my life.
Okay, so you have to post pictures and show me how you're styling them.
Go to our IG story today.
Oh, I will do that. Because you know what I did, and I'm admitting this to everybody, is that I have taken off all socials on my phone.
I'm proud of you.
And that's huge. And I've just done that so that I have to go actually onto the computer maybe once or twice a day if I have time to do that, to see whatever is going on. Because I just feel like with everything that's going on right now in the world, we're just bombarded left and right. And then you get kind of sucked into this vacuum of social media because you click and then click, then click, then click. And I was finding that I was wasting so much time going into this like rabbit hole of social media that I just decided take that off my phone. So I did that. So I haven't seen stories today, but now I'm going to go check out stories just so I can see you in harem pants. So the harem pants replaced the yoga pants.
Yes. I bought the harem pants for my combat boots that I was finally able to afford, like real Doc Martens, right? Now that I'm a grown up.
Oh, yay.
So I got it for that. But then I was like, ooh, let me try this with high heels. And they look good with high heels.
They do. And now you need to wear it with an ankle bracelet, girl.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, with the high heels.
I'll probably use the bracelet you got me for Eid.
Okay, I know. Exactly. I'm so excited because that's a whole nother podcast. But, I feel badly because not only did the technology not work for this giving circle, I totally left Uzma in the lurch. Like, I was supposed to come, I was supposed to help co-host, and what I was doing instead, as you all know, we do a lot of interfaith work, and that's what I was doing that day. And we were having a very spirited conversation about the current Israeli-Palestinian conflict or whatever we want to call it, but I'm going to be conflict because I'm going to be, I am. Osma's not going to call it conflict. I'm going to choose to call it conflict just to try to be on a politically correct, I'm going to use the politically correct terminology, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because, and this was a quote that afterwards it definitely emotionally leaves you drained, because I am definitely unapologetically on the side of the Palestinians. I've made it known. We have it in our stories. I love my Jewish brothers and sisters. We also say that unapologetically, and we heart them, and you don't see this. However, what is going on right now is just, it's a very unjust situation. So trying to have these very delicate conversations and mediating it as a Muslim leader is very hard to do. So I read this quote the day after to process everything, and I felt like it really resonated with me. So a single moment of misunderstanding is so poisonous that it can make us forget 100 lovable moments spent together in a minute. And that is exactly what happens, because this whole situation, I find, is we are talking at each other and talking past each other, because all of us are coming at the situation from our particular point of view. And what I had learned on Sunday for the first time, and it could be my naivete, how do you say the word? Naivete. I mean, how do us Chicagoans say
my
that?
Naiveness. I think in
my
South
naiveness.
Side, my naiveness.
I think I was about to say naiveness, but I was like, I don't think that is correct.
It's
so
I'm glad
I'm glad you're correcting me today. My naivete. I'm just going to say naiveness because that's what I grew up saying.
Yeah, you get to. You're Southside,
I'm sorry. I'm going to say that. And when I actually started listening with my mouth shut, I had heard from some of my Jewish sisters, which I've spent years developing relationship with. We are friends, that they felt all Muslims, felt that Jewish people in that area should be obliterated.
Okay.
And I had never heard that before that day, literally. And I don't know if it's because we as American Muslims just have a very different worldview and understanding. I'm not sure. But that's when I realized we have so much work to do. So much freaking work to do. And so I'm like,
but I just, I want to counter that with anybody who thinks that me fighting for my rights means taking away yours.
Exactly. That's literally
supremacists get so freaked out by Black people saying, just treat us like equitably, treat us like humans, and I think in the mind of white supremacists, and I'm not saying that your colleagues and your friends are white supremacists, but it's that ideology that is set in them. I don't care what religion you practice. It is set in that part of the world because religious pluralism was not something that they condoned. Like they have the whole, missionary mentality. It's my way or the highway, whereas Islam promoted religious plurality, even when, there was an Islamic empire and Islamic colonialism happened too. But under the colonialism of Islam, you had to, Sharia law said you have to practice religious pluralism. You have to honor it. And so people think that, Palestinian rights at the expense of Jewish rights. No, it's just give them back what's theirs and stop rewriting history. That's all we're saying,
Right. And that's
they want you to die. They just want you to stop taking their lands and killing them.
That's exactly the point, because honestly, I had never heard that before, because
I've
like
heard
you
it all
said,
the time.
I like you just said, I'm like, under Islam, we don't believe that. We're not supposed to
kill other religions. You're not allowed to kill the religious leaders.
You're not allowed to do that.
Worship. So
all we're saying is, and by the way, this whole concept of separate but equal, also a bunch of crap, right? There is no concept of separate but equal. Well, I mean, separate but equal doesn't work because we tried it here in the States, and we
Doesn't
can
work.
all agree that that also doesn't work. So what I'm saying is, like, I feel like we were talking past each other. Definitions weren't quite established. There was so much misinformation, and this was after years of developing friendships. So I just feel like in order for true change, I my gut instinct, of course, was always, your emotional instinct is like, oh my God, nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to change, I'm going to walk away. But then I realized that true transformational change can only happen under the toughest of circumstances, right? Like carbon becomes a diamond under extreme pressure. And what we have to do right now is have those really tough, uncomfortable conversations in safe spaces. And perhaps one person, two people, three people, we can start chipping away at this. And maybe in our lifetime, maybe in our grandchildren's lifetime, maybe in our grandchildren's lifetime, inshallah, there will be some sort of peace and solution to this, because what's going on right now is not sustainable. And that's my personal soapbox as to why I had to turn the social media off, why I was late to actually, I wasn't even late. I flat out left Uzma out to dry on the line, and I appreciate everybody listening to that today, because I'm going to give it over to Uzma right now for what's the soapbox for real today. And what is the soapbox for today, my dear friend?
So last week we covered domestic travel under COVID. So I thought, because we're talking to expat moms this month, it would be important to also talk about COVID travel internationally, or traveling internationally in the time of COVID, because guess what? COVID's still out there, it's still happening. So the recommendations from the CDC are, if you are unvaccinated, don't travel internationally. It's pretty easy. Fully vaccinated travelers are just less likely to transmit COVID and to get it themselves. So that's just kind of the long and short of it. So for vaccinated people, that means that it's been 2 weeks since your second shot, or 2 weeks since your first Johnson & Johnson, your first and only Johnson & Johnson. So before you travel, check with your airline and check with your destination or destinations to see what their mask guidelines are, to see what their social distancing guidelines are, and certainly to see if they still want you to take a viral PCR test. Some of them will want it, even though you're vaccinated. Carry your proof of vaccination card with you. Either way, while traveling, at least in the United States, before you embark to your international I forgot the word, location, before you get to your final destination. Thank you. Your destination. There's a federal mandate in the United States to wear masks in airports and on airplanes. So you cannot fight that. People have done it. We talked about it last week. Don't be one of the idiots who fights it. Okay, so cover your nose and your mouth. If you don't, there are plenty of people to tell you to do it at the airport and on the plane. For people who are coming internationally into the United States, because yes, it's allowed. There's countries that are allowed to come over here. All people coming into the United States, including U.S. citizens, must be fully vaccinated, and they are required to have a negative COVID-19 test 3 days before their arrival. After arrival, internationally, if you are going internationally or if you are coming internationally into the United States, get tested 3 to 5 days after travel, monitor for COVID symptoms. And if you don't get tested, stay in your house for 10 days. If you do get symptomatic, do the full 2-week quarantine. For unvaccinated people, hey, we know you're traveling. We know some of you have to travel overseas because of emergencies that have arisen in the last year, sadly. So before you travel, get your viral tests 3 days before. Again, check the destination's mask requirements, travel requirements, COVID testing requirements, so that you don't get sent back from the airport with a non-refundable ticket. Same masking guidelines, same social distancing guidelines, and then after you travel, again, viral testing 3 to 5 days after you arrive at your destination, whatever that is, and self-quarantine for 7 days if you're not going to do that. So that's really important, because I know plenty of people who aren't doing it, and I really, really urge you, don't undo all the hard work that we did. We do not want to go back to lockdown from last year. So safe travel, everybody. And if you have any questions, you can go to the cdc.gov and look up both of their domestic and international COVID travel guidelines. That's our soapbox for today.
Thank you. So I have just a really quick question. So obviously 4 out of 6 of us, or 2/3, as we're learning fractions for the rising third graders.
For the little kids.
For the little ones, are vaccinated. So, and we are gearing up to head to Chi-Town because it's been a while since we've seen our parents. And the younger 2 are not vaccinated. Do you recommend before we see their grandparents to get a COVID test before we travel there and once we land in Chicago? What are your thoughts on that for kids that are not vaccinated before seeing grandparents?
Yeah. And
even if they're vaccinated.
If they're under 13 and unvaccinated, because we can't vaccinate those kids right now.
Right.
If they are going to be seeing, whether you travel domestically or internationally, if they are going to be seeing people who are high risk, then they should quarantine for 14 days upon arrival before going to see those high-risk people, or get tested. And I think that getting tested is better.
And even if they're vaccinated?
If they're vaccinated, so this is my take.
The grandparents are vaccinated.
If grandparents are vaccinated, you should be okay.
Okay.
But I would still, for safety's sake, because your kids are not vaccinated, and we don't want them to accidentally take, there is a small percentage, like, I don't know what the national percentage is, but there is a small percentage of fully vaccinated people that are still getting symptomatic COVID and ending up at the hospital, because we have variants now, right?
Okay.
So, or we've had them, and now we're figuring out which one can take down the vaccine. So for your parents' sake, I would get the kids tested within 3 days. Honestly, they can see their grandparents upon arrival. Just wear their masks until their test comes back negative.
Okay, perfect.
Because that's what I would do for my parents.
Okay, so that's something to qualify too, because we all are gearing up to do our summer vacations. We're finally feeling good about doing that and doing some travel. We're all itching. We're not traveling internationally. Let's just be real. We're all just baby going steps. To the other. We're doing baby steps. We're just going to the middle of the United States. And as much as we would love to go to the other side of the world, I'm just dreaming about that one day. We are actually joined today by somebody who actually did that, like decided I'm going to pick up, move, and live in another part of the world, and actually had House Hunters International film her journey into like finding a house overseas. And you can watch her episode. I actually did randomly. So spoiler alert, I think you can tune into it in HD TV. Isra Hashmi, she is a super big dreamer and a doer, because she was like, I'm going to get this done. And she actually got it done. She manages all of our messy lives. Let's just be real. We're like, how is Isra going to do this? Because she helps us through, she's a nurse practitioner, but she also has a Facebook group called the Muslima Declutter. And she has been decluttering us and personally on our minimal life journey. And, we've kind of gotten to know her throughout this year via Facebook. And honestly, I think her son came on the show a while ago, and he's just was such a treat. And so we are so super excited about having her on and just getting a glimpse into her world and how it was living overseas, because now she's back stateside. So welcome, Isra, and let us know how your journey was.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Salam. Wow, that's an intro.
Yeah.
I was like,
I feel like we know you so well.
Isn't that so funny? When you hear yourself, you're like, I am pretty amazing.
Amazing. I rock. I've been on TV. What you got?
It's surreal. It's sometimes surreal, yeah, when you hear it, actually.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually kind of cool that my son was here before me.
Yeah,
on
I
a
love
morning show.
Yeah.
He's for those who didn't,
kids. He is one of our favorite kids to be on this show because, FYI to the audience, we have amazing kids on. And when his mom posted about what he was doing, because we were having masjid withdrawal last year and happened to need a khutbah for the kids to kind of get into the at least Jummah spirit at the time, and found Isa, and he was doing kid khutbahs, and they were way better than the imam khutbahs. Like, let's be real, the kids were not going to listen to them, and Isa did a fine job. And it wasn't like not factual. It was like factual but fun, short, succinct, money. So we had him on, and now this is his mom. So you did a great job. And because we've like talked about your wonderful child, you do have other children. So tell us a little bit about your kids and your momming philosophy.
Yeah, so I do have other kids. Everybody knows Isa, alhamdulillah, but I do have 2 girls also. Not twins, but they have the same birthday. So,
cool.
So they're happy with that. They were not happy for a while, but I think
I know.
Yeah. So if you know, I call myself my kid's mom. I used to listen to Dr. Laura back in the day, like before I even got married. I was an old soul. I used to like listen to her when I was a teenager. I have no idea why now. But I always dreamed about motherhood, not marriage. So everybody thinks about their wedding and how it's going to be and their husband. And it just never came into my head. I always jumped to, the kids and like being a mom. And so when I used to hear her say that, I'm my kid's mom, I used to say it back before I even had kids. So, yeah.
Because we've been chosen for each other.
Yeah. And we're talking about decluttering. I mean, I could say my parenting philosophy is decluttering also. I'm a decluttering parenting, actually I can make that a course, decluttered parenthood. There you have it.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah, it's the same philosophy. It's just focusing on what matters most, even in parenting. So I'm not trying to do everything. I'm just trying to do, what matters most. And number 1 is deen, always will be. And then family comes after. Conventional studies and games and all of that comes way after. So,
She just wrote her course right here, everybody. So you heard it
there
here first on Mommyingwhilemuslim.
Yeah,
we'll get the discount to our listeners shortly.
Definitely.
That's too funny. So tell the audience a little bit about your family background, what you do, and then then I'll let Zeba take over. Yeah.
Okay. So we come from I could say, I guess, multiracial, multi-ethnic background, our whole family already. I was born and raised in the US, but I am originally from India, from Hyderabad. Shout out to biryani. Okay.
Oh my God. This is why we get along. It's hydro love.
Shout out to Hyderabad biryani. I have to.
My stomach is growling, ladies.
I know, me too. Maybe that's why I'm thinking about it. My husband is half Egyptian and half Saudi. So our kids are a whole mix. Yeah.
They really are. Lots of good food there, man.
Lots of good food. Yeah. We do it all here. So we are already coming from this, and he was actually born and raised in Egypt. So his first language is Arabic. So that's already where languages kind of really became important to us. That I'm not very good with Urdu, and I've always kind of regretted that. My parents talked to me in Urdu and I always talked back in English. And that didn't serve me very well. As I grew up, it was fine. I understood them, but I really did feel that loss, that I would love to know the language. I would have loved to converse with my parents easily, my mom, back and forth. My grandmother when she was alive, like in India, I would have loved to have been able to have that. So I think when I got married, it was a really big thing for me that, okay, they're going to know Arabic, because I've always wanted to learn Arabic, and now I'm married to a native Arabic speaker, so I can't let that go. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I love that. So, the title of this particular episode is Manifesting Duaa in Dreams of Andalus, which is, just something that I would love to do one day. So you had to have been a visionary in order to think ahead and being like, this is something I really want for my family. Granted, I think you guys decided to go there right before lockdown and then ended up getting truly locked down from what I know about your particular story. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the vision, like the dream of how it came up, a little bit about your journey, why HGTV decided, hey, I want to talk about this family, this multi-ethnic family from all over, and how you guys ended up in, dreaming, manifesting Andalus and ending up there. So why don't you take us a little bit there, and we can live vicariously through you.
Yeah. So Spain was not like I didn't start with Spain. I started with where I was at, which is, in the US, they talk about the 9 to 5, but really it's the 5 to 9. It doesn't, it starts
doesn't really
super
end.
early.
That's true.
And it ends very late. And we were kind of in that. Me and my husband, we were living in Boston, and we were just kind of going through what we thought you're supposed to do in the US, which is, go to good colleges, get a good degree, and then go to work, get a good job, have kids. And we thought that's it. We just did everything that we were told to do. But the problem is we never saw each other. I would leave by 5 a.m. because I had to take a train into the city. I worked at a super big hospital, and I had to be there right. Patients are there, they're waiting for you right before you even open the clinic. They're outside the door. So you have to be there right on time. And so if I'm leaving at, 6 a.m., obviously my kids are still asleep. So he would get them ready. He would take them to school, and then he would hop on a train and get into the city and start his job. And then I would get back home and rush back on a train to be able to pick them up by 3 p.m. And then he would come in around 8:30, 9. He would stroll in right when they're like getting to bed. And this just went on. And you don't go through that without it affecting you and it wearing on you.
Yeah.
When people ask me, I always say it's never one thing. You do not make a drastic move like that. It's not just, okay, one day I decided I'm not going to do this anymore. It was, it's a pile of things. 2016 also happened, which was the, disastrous election year. And that also kind of started to open this idea that, is this good for us right now? Is this good for our family? Isa would come home, and I remember clearly one time he came home after, Trump had won, and said, do we have to leave?
Oh,
do we have to?
Baby.
And I didn't understand what he meant. My mind is somewhere else. And what do you mean? Do we have to leave? No, you don't have, fencing tonight. We don't have to go. Like, I didn't know what he was talking about. And then I realized that he was thinking we have to leave the country now. And because he heard things at school, it's time for, Muslims to go and stuff. So all these things just started piling on. I'm not even seeing my husband anymore. I'm barely seeing my kids. It's like survival. I'm feeding them. I'm putting them to bed. I'm running to work, feeding them, and then, the whole culture of the US was a little bit, it was very hard for Muslims. And I wanted them to be proud of who they were. Yeah. That was the bottom line. I just wanted them to know, don't hide your identity. Don't hide who you are. Being a Muslim is something very proud to be to be, and that you come from a very rich and beautiful Islamic heritage. And that's really how it kind of started the ball running, that maybe we should look into taking them abroad for a year and taking a break, because this is getting really toxic. That's kind of how it happened.
And I think I first heard about the Spain plan when we were in Visionaire. And I just saw your name and I was like, oh, I know a Muslim in Spain now. So I invited myself over to her house too.
No.
Oh, I'll see you there. She's like, yeah, come anytime. So tell us about that, like the manifestation of this plan and dream that you had.
So what happened, this is actually literally what happened. So it was one of the many normal nights that has happened in normal, regular American households. We're sitting and watching Food Network. It was like me and my husband late at night. The kids are asleep. I was exhausted, but you know, you're like watching something. He's on the computer doing his work, finishing up. And I just said, let's move. Let's move to Spain. I had no idea where it came from. It was like, and I didn't even think he heard me. I think I was just dreaming, you know, like, I can't do this anymore. Let's just move. And he was listening and he said, okay. I was like, wait, what? Yeah. So when your husband just says yes to did you hear what I said? Like, I just said I want to move to Spain. I took it and ran.
You're like, okay, before he forgets, let me go and get this ball rolling.
That is really what happened. But actually then we started, you know, I started looking into it. I started looking up schools. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep going with it. And I think what happens and what I've learned, the biggest lesson takeaway from me from that Visionaire program has always been, you know, just do it. If it's meant for you, the door will open or it will close. Allah will open or close it. That's not for you to decide. So just keep going in that direction. And so I did. I started looking up Spain. And we started looking up other countries. We started to, you know, research other places. So Turkey was on the list. We looked at Malaysia, Indonesia. We were just kind of, you know, looking, but we kept coming back to Spain, kept drawing us in.
I love that. So it wasn't like one thing. I really appreciate that. But, you know, what was your family and friends' reaction? Where like, your husband, okay, he validated you, he heard you, he said, okay, but what did everybody else in the family and your friend circle and work say? You're crazy, you're out of your mind. Like, that's what I would expect.
Yeah. And that's why I didn't tell anybody.
Yes.
We didn't.
Nice.
We didn't tell anybody we were leaving the country and moving to Spain until 2 weeks before we took off. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want to hear it. It's well-meaning, but it's misplaced. It's their kind of limiting, you know, ideas of like, what are you doing? You know, it's their fears. And I don't want to have to manage their fears. I have my own. I have enough of my own. So yes, I told my mom and she kind of knew. And my mom is just, you know, she's always been supportive of everything. Yes, maybe it broke her heart, but we were living in Boston and she was living in California. So we were already almost 6 hours apart anyways. So it's kind of like, well, you know, what's the big difference? It was a year. But yeah, no, we didn't tell anybody because something like that, I knew I would get a lot of pushback. And I was like, no, we know what's good for our family. So it's more like, goodbye, we'll see you later.
Yeah, you make the decision, you stick to your guns, and you do the magic words. I think the key words here on the podcast are you do what's best for your family. You do you, boo. Yeah. You know, because my way is not going to work for you and your way is not going to work for me. Or maybe we marry them and find something in the middle. You pick what works. And I really appreciate that. I would just worry because with little kids, they can't keep secrets, man.
Oh,
Did you not tell them either until 2 weeks before?
So we didn't tell them. No, they knew about a couple months before. We would kind of talk to them, you know, what do you guys think about like moving abroad? Isa was old enough and he's always kind of on the quiet side. So he was fine. But the girls, you know, there's a little chatting going on. So my whole thing was there's actually nothing to tell until we get the visa. You know, until you actually get approved for that residency visa, which I'm going to tell you was really hard. That was like one of the most stressful things. It's a ton of work. Forget taxes. Taxes is nothing. This is, I mean, they want everything and they want everything certified. And so I said, you know what, there's really nothing to tell because I'm not going to go back and be like, well, we got rejected for the visa. So, you know, we're not going now. Yeah.
So let's talk about that process, because like, somebody like myself who has never thought to live abroad, though I do find it, I always joke that once my kids are gone, that is going to be my life. Like I'm just going to like flitz around to different countries, and it's going to be like, instead of where's Waldo, it'll be like, where is Zeba today? Like that's going to be like my dream. But like what is that process like? Like you have to go through a residency visa is different than a visiting visa. And why is that the case? So for people that are kind of toying with that idea now that we're in more of a virtual world, so a lot of people are leaving their homes and thinking, hey, maybe I can try something out for a little bit. What does that process look like?
Yeah, so it is completely different. So for Europe, you get, as a U.S. Citizen, for your U.S. passport, you get 90 days unrestricted tourist visa. So you don't even have to apply for it before. You can just land with your American passport and you get approved for 90 days. There's a lot of things that come, though, with those 90 days. You are strictly a tourist. You cannot rent property. You can't work in the country. You can't really do anything as you would, when you're living there as a resident. You can't put the kids in school, all sorts of things. So the other thing is, if you get just a tourist, at 90 days, you have to leave the whole EU, and then you would come back again.
Oh, gotcha.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So a residency, we have health insurance rights. We can go, see the doctors. We put the kids in government schools, which was super important. Yeah, they were in government, so full Spanish immersion. Now, when I say full, I mean their math books were even in Spanish.
Oh, nice.
God bless them. Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't throw the books at me. But I mean, like, everything was in Spanish, but we couldn't have done that. We rented a home, so we had a full contract. We have rights as a tenant. So a lot of things, yeah.
That's, I think, really important, because I completely took that for granted. I thought, like we're, like a typical American, I'm just going to go and stay however long I want because I have a blue passport.
Right.
Know. But that's amazing that you can go there and get national health care as a resident. That's amazing.
And we did. I used that. I mean, it was amazing. I didn't have to, there's no referrals, there's nothing. So, I wanted to see a podiatrist for the kids. Okay, I took them to the podiatrist. All the specialties that take forever here. Just within, 3-4 days, I would call them up directly, make the appointment. And yeah, it was amazing.
Look at that.
All the specialties, yeah.
That's crazy. I know, as a nurse practitioner and me in primary care, it just mind blowing, because nothing's ever easy.
Mind blowing.
Right? It is mind-blowing.
No.
So, the pandemic happened while you were over there, and it was a very strict, American democratic nightmare. Oh my God, it's so fascist the way they're locking down Europe. But tell us about that and what that did to your family.
Yeah. So the pandemic, was, everybody has their story. It was crazy for everyone. Ours even went a little step further. So when we arrived in Spain about 6 months before the hurricane of the pandemic happened. So 6 months is really not a long time to assimilate into a country we have never been before. I've never been to Spain, by the way. That was my first time moving to visiting Spain, was actually moving there. So everything, we're still very new. And then my husband was working remote over there while we were there. So that means, he still had to come to the US for meetings and things like that were still really important. So he had a really, it's like a once a year type of meeting. It only happens once a year, and it's a must. He has to go. So he went. The day that he went, the next day, Spain went on lockdown.
Oh, no.
That means they closed their borders, completely closed their borders. in mid-flight on his way, he was actually on his way to DC, he gets messages saying canceled, kind of like abort mission type of thing.
No.
Like, we're doing the meeting remote and nobody has to come anymore. No worries. He's already in flight. He's coming from Europe.
No.
So, the time difference, he would have had to have left earlier. And so he arrives there and realizes that everything is now closed. So our borders were totally closed, and they were closed to the US. Specifically, they didn't want anybody coming from the US. And so flights stopped. So even though he had a residency and he had every right to come back, he couldn't find a flight. There were no flights coming because it just didn't make financial sense to take one person from the US or two people or something, right? Passengers were like, so he was there. He was stuck there for 2 months. He stayed in a like embassy suites or something, hotel over there.
My gosh.
And so he was stuck there for 2 months. I was, I was with the kids there, and it was scary. It was absolutely scary. I'm in a country that I don't know. I don't have any friends. I don't have any family. I have all the kids with me that I am now in charge of.
A part of,
and it's all in a language that I am not fluent in at all. So alhamdulillah for Isa, he became my translator over there. So all the news that was happening in COVID was in Spanish. So literally every morning we would go online and he would kind of translate what they were saying and what the guidelines were. And Spain was well known for that. They had one of the strictest lockdowns in the whole world, even compared to Italy. There was a campaign that happened like 3 weeks in, saying free the children.
Oh no! To let them go outside, right? Yeah.
To let them go outside because even the parks were closed. If it was grocery shopping, only one person from the household could go. And so now I have these 3 young children. Isa was, fairly young at that time also.
Oh, no.
But now I'm thinking, okay, how do I get to the grocery store by myself? Because I couldn't take the kids because I would have been fined by the police for bringing a kid with me. So what happened is Spain is a collective society. And that's where I learned the true meaning of what that is. I didn't really know my neighbors. But one of them, she came and I was, I guess, upstairs at the time. I wasn't, she knocked the door and she was just checking in because she asked my son, she asked Isa, she's like, is your mom okay? I haven't seen her for a week. Like she would, I guess, notice me coming in and she knew that my husband was not there, that he was stuck in the US because we had told her. And so when she didn't see me, she did come and check on me. And this is someone I really don't know very well, I had people who just came and just gathered around me and would bring me the groceries. I would text them what I need. They would go bring it, drop it off at the door, because this was the big time COVID where it's like, don't even, touch me. I have to sanitize everything. So I really got that spirit of just being, don't worry, you're going to be fine. But yeah, it was, it was a scary time. Yeah.
Same.
But guess what? You're here. You're telling this amazing story. I mean, you survived. What a story to tell. And alhamdulillah, you were able to see something that the rest of us here in the U.S. aren't able to experience or to see. So what a blessing that ended up turning out, even though it was scary, but it ended up being such a blessing for you to be able to see the camaraderie, the partnerships that you through language barriers, through cultural differences, that in a time of chaos, we ultimately want to help our neighbors. I personally love hearing that story, and I'm sorry that you were scared, but I love that it ultimately worked out for you. And, what a gift that you gave your kids to be able to witness that firsthand. That having been said, I'm glad you're home safely stateside, because I was getting anxiety listening to that story. So I'm glad that you're here. But, the question I'm sure a lot of people are having right now is, when are you planning to go back And how long are you going to stay over there this time?
Yeah, probably a question my mom doesn't want to hear.
I know. She's like, I just got her to come back. Don't
She's
ask
like,
her that
what?
question.
Go back. Yeah. So we are still residents of Spain. Before we left, we extended our residency for 2 years. So after you are a resident for 1 year, you can renew. And the next time you renew, though, it can be for 2 years. So we did that. And we do plan to go back. I mean, we plan to, spend a good amount of summer over there with the kids. They are so comfortable there. When we left, they were sad, actually. They were sad to leave. They really loved Spain. My daughter, Salma, absolutely said that I'm coming back here and I'm going to have a home here. And I love that because I thought, that's what I want. I want you to be a citizen of the world. I want you to go anywhere and feel like I could live here too. It's not just I'm in the US and that's it. Born, raised here, and that's where I have to stay. That's how I grew up, and I don't, knock it, but I learned from it and said I want them to be a little more flexible with seeing that you can really go anywhere. So I do want them to continue feeling like it's their second home. We lived in Granada, which has a really excellent University of Granada. And so I would love if the kids went and did, a semester abroad or a year there or something, to know that you lived here and you can be comfortable here. So, yeah.
Amazing.
Inshallah.
May Allah make all their dreams come true and give them success wherever they are. But the whole citizen of the world really speaks to me, because Zeba and I have talked about that too. We want our kids to be global citizens. But how has the transition been back professionally, and then I guess, do I say educationally for the kids?
Yeah. So you were asking me about work, which is a big thing. So it's kind of also interesting. And that's been very surreal for me. I had to kind of work through that because I was working in Boston, Mass General. So, but my specialty was actually I was working in infectious disease.
Oh my. So, thank God you were gone for the pandemic.
I know. So when we left, I left, as a sabbatical. I left on incredibly great terms. I loved my team that I was working with. And I say team because, healthcare is never one person. It's everybody there. So I loved it. We had every intention of going back to Boston. So I didn't want to burn any bridges. In fact, before I left, I had actually was managing my own clinic, one of the most prestigious mental health facilities in the world. And I say that on purpose because all of it you can come back to.
Yeah.
But you cannot come back to your kids being a certain age. You can't come back to that time as a young couple. And I still say we're a young couple. I mean, we are.
Yes, you are.
So, when we left, that was another reason was we just kind of looked at the kids and said, whoa, they're growing really fast. Isa's going to be in high school in a year. This is just, we're losing time with them. We just felt we were losing a lot of time. So we left all of that. And though I left a great job and everything, I would still do it again because I can never get back that time with them. It's a memory forever. So when we got to Spain and then when the pandemic started, I'm still on this email list. So I'm still getting all this stuff. And it was incredibly surreal because there was a part of me that's like, this is kind of what I wait for.
Yeah.
I mean, in infectious disease, my God, this is like, my lifetime. I'll never see this again, to be part of that team and to have been. But I also say, SubhanAllah, Allah saved me because I was completely frontline. I mean, we were, if you want to say frontline, that was our clinic. And so, alhamdulillah, if I had stayed, I would have been living in a hotel.
Yeah.
I would have definitely not seen my family regularly for at least 6 months to a year. I would have definitely had to stay away. And instead, Allah gave me a year of being with my family. So it was, So when I say that about my work, it really was surreal. Yeah.
But now that you're back, are you excited to restart, or are you continuing let me continue fostering the time with my kids?
So the first year we were there, they went to government school because we really wanted them to learn Spanish and quickly. We had only planned to be there 1 year, and the only way is just immersion. Yes, it's a little stressful, but it's kind of the good stress. You know they can do it. Just let them, stretch a little bit. But then when the pandemic happened, their school got shut and everything went to online. And so the whole point of them, developing and like being with other kids, luckily they did, make some friends who they kept in contact with, but it just kind of lost its, charm that, well, now we're at home, what was the point? So the second year when they started school, we just went completely online and we said, you know what, we're kind of free to go wherever we want now. We don't have to be bound to Granada. So then we moved to the coast. We went to Alicante, which is very underrated. And if you go to Spain, visit Alicante. It is beautiful. It's beautiful and serene and peaceful. And so we stayed there for about 3-4 months. And the kids went to school. But now that we are back, we are planning to go back to conventional school, I'll call it. My youngest keeps telling me that she wants to go to regular school now. So I said, okay, I think they're just missing that connection. So,
the connection and structure.
Yeah, very much.
Well, I'm sure your mama missed you as your kids, you miss your kids. So it's kind of coming full circle with you being back stateside. And I know we've enjoyed reading your story and being a part of your decluttering process. And we will be a part of your decluttering parenting series if you ever do come about it, because I do think it did take a lot for you to step back into, and it's a sacrifice. What people aren't realizing, it's a huge sacrifice because all of us could be doing something else, right? Like that's the truth of it. We're all extremely capable, extremely educated women, and we are choosing for a short period of time to put our children first. And I do feel we don't regret it. In the teenage years, you sometimes are like, stupid, don't you know what I had to give up for you? But you keep that to yourself as you silently whisper that under your breath. But for the most part, you really do enjoy them. But that's for another day. But we do this now new segment where I kind of ask you really quick, rapid fire questions, and you kind of have to think about it from really, really quickly. So are you ready for this?
Okay.
It's like a game show. Are you ready, Isra? Like you can take a breath.
I'm very competitive, so I feel like
I know
myself. Okay.
But you're competing with yourself. That's it.
I know, which is horrible. It's actually worse.
It's worse.
I'm going to be like, what did I
worse.
say? Yeah.
Which is okay. So are you ready, Joe? Do we have the timer? We're gonna put the timer. Okay, and we got the music going. Okay, what is something that you're really looking forward to this summer?
Staying put.
Oh,
we traveled a lot. I actually like being. I know everybody's leaving. I'm not going anywhere.
You're not going anywhere.
You've done enough for a couple of years. I think you're good.
I'm playing out.
You've done enough for a couple of lifetimes for people.
That's true.
So if you could win an Olympic medal for any sport, real, fake, what would it be?
A kind mom. Just kind.
Oh, love that. That's a good medal.
That is a good medal.
I'm never winning that one.
I said I'd like to win it. I didn't say I'm winning it.
Oh, okay.
What was your favorite subject in school, hands down?
Writing.
Oh, I love
English,
that.
Creative writing. Oh, absolutely.
What is a hidden talent? Would that be also creative writing?
Yes, I think a lot of people don't realize that my passion is in writing. I feel I can express myself much better in writing than speaking. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Was that
we
the
got
last
to
question?
know. Well, we can. That's the timer ran out. I have a gazillion.
Oh, okay.
So did I win? or?
You always win.
You're always a winner on this rapid fire. That's
Always
awesome.
You're always a winner on this rapid fire. We definitely appreciate you being here today, Isra, and sharing a little bit about your journey. I am not brave enough to go to Spain for a year. I'm not going to lie, but maybe I will visit there for a week in the near future, inshallah.
Yeah, please.
It's totally worth it. She
go to
made
the
it sound
south
so
of
beautiful.
Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah, go to the south of Spain. You know, a lot of people used to ask me, I got this question a lot, and one person kept asking me, why did you go to Spain? You know, because I had said that I wanted them to learn about Islamic heritage and be proud. And they said, why don't you go to Middle East? And I said, that's the exact stereotype that we were trying to avoid. There is the golden age of Islam that happened in Spain, and the history is so deep. And I know when I went there, all I kept thinking is, I really hope and pray, inshallah, all Muslims can see this and see the history here, because it really is so deep. And Spain has been so respectful, keeping everything restored. Everything is given the utmost care. They don't, you know, they haven't ruined anything. They try to, you know, they honor their Islamic past. And I really appreciate that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I would not have expected that, just given the Spanish Inquisition and how they kicked the Moors out. So that's amazing. Like you said, I think the homage that they give history is important. And, you know, I don't want to undersell your creative writing. So all of your experiences that you had culminated in this really beautiful project. Do you want to kind of give a little spoiler or a hint to people?
So, so this is, so I guess, you know, there's always khair. There's always khair that, you know, good that comes out of trials and tests. And so when we went on lockdown, when my husband, you know, got stuck in the US and wasn't able to come, I just started writing. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't, you know, let that fear out to my kids. I didn't want them to see how scared I was. I didn't want them to see me in tears or anxious. And so I would just start writing, and that writing became a book 4 months later. So it's everything that I, you know, would want people to know about just living different, you know, trying something else. You won't know until you try it. You know, there's no way for anybody to know if it's right for them unless you give it a chance. So
and out of fear come brilliant things and good things. And, you know, sure, it sounds scary to go to a country that we don't know and, you know, hunker down for a year or 2 years and just wing it. But people did that before. We're not the first people. You're not the first person. And inshallah, you won't be the last. So that's amazing. I don't want to undersell also your Facebook page and group, Muslim Simple and Decluttered Living. Zeba and I talked a lot about it during Ramadan because it helped us get ready for Ramadan, which you saw from my before and afters I really needed. So that was really important. So we can find you there. Are we allowed to share your Instagram as well?
Yeah, sure. My Instagram is public, so it's fine.
Okay, awesome. So we'll have all of that information on our show notes, and, you know, follow her so that you can hear about when the book is coming out. Do you have a date of release for that?
We are looking at winter. It's in editing right now. It's going really well. So
okay,
I'm
inshallah,
excited.
winter.
Yeah.
Super excited. Awesome,
I want it solid. You know those drafts.
Yeah, they stink. Yeah. I'm only on my 5th one, so super fun. Well, thank you, Isra. It was awesome to finally have you on the podcast and talk about Spain. Thank you for sharing your expat life. And we look forward to talking to you more about it and definitely reading about your experiences, inshallah. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. It was really beautiful being here. Thank you both.
Absolutely. We'll see you on Facebook then. Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
This episode of Mommyingwhilemuslim is brought to you by Muslim Kids TV, where you can find over 15,000 resources, including Islamic videos, games, and ebooks for your children. Use code MKTV2021 to get a 25% discount off of your annual subscription.